One of the big takeaways that I've got from Uncaged so far came from Donald Doe. He always brings up how you do everything, how you do anything is how you do everything. And that's something that I kind of took to heart. And so when you look at something in your personal life and kind of compare it to something in your business life, those traits and habits tend to follow you wherever you're at. And if you're not showing up somewhere, whether that be in business, relationship, your personal, those same habits are often why you're messing up in those other spots too. So.
No, man, that's a heavy hitter, dude. And shout out
Yeah.
Reverend Don, bro. That dude always brings the heat. And if you're just now like hanging out with us, like that's what all this is about, this entire channel. It's all about the journey to the top 1%. How do we get there? It's by becoming 1% better daily. And understanding those habits and improving those habits are a huge factor in that. So super excited to have this conversation with you, Ryan. Why don't you go ahead and tell the guys who you are and what you do, and let's just get into it.
Yeah. So, for those who don't know who I am, I'm Ryan Mason. I am the owner of Elevated Ideas. I started off my sales career as a car salesman. I did that for about a decade, and we're coming up on a year now, almost exactly. May 3rd of last year is when I stepped out full time and started Elevated Ideas full time. Not that I hadn't done it a little bit before that, of course, but yeah, that's when I made the transition to jump in 100%. So, and about that time was when I joined Uncaged. And a lot of that for me was some of the accountability too, right? Being able to reach out to people that have already been in that situation and ask the questions that I need to ask to get to the next level.
No, man, that's sick, bro. It's been fun watching you grow, and that's a huge step, dude, getting
Yeah.
out full time and taking life by the horns. But no, and that's it kind of brings me, something you mentioned earlier. In fact, I heard Donald Doe say it on the call yesterday. Like these things that you hear, there's like repetition of, and honestly, I kind of make fun of myself sometimes because you'll hear these like cliche sayings, like
Oh, yeah.
on Instagram and stuff. But like the reason they're cliche or the reason people are still saying them and that they're still relevant is because they're true. And you hear someone like Don Doe that says, he doesn't change up. Like when he says fucking something, it's because he fucking believes it. And so like you hear a statement, like how you do anything's how you do everything, right? Like things like this is like you really have to peel back the layers of that to truly understand like at its root like what that means to you. But I agree with you, like there's personal life, professional life, intermingling the two, like whatever the case is, like you can tell who a man is by in his character by the way he does things. And so like for you, let's like unpack that a little bit, like especially like Ryan yourself, like your year one of like full-time entrepreneurship. Like there's plenty of fucking times looking back on my life where you have the ability to make an excuse or to be lazy. And hey, listen, arguably I've fallen in those pitfalls before. Like I
Yeah.
have let my foot off the gas and giving myself too much room. Like what has that journey been like for you since it's fresh on your mind, like year one? Like what are some examples of times that you were fucking off, whether it be in your personal life and it affected your professional or vice versa? Like what's that journey been like for you, bro?
Well, it's a fine dance, right? So when you quit your job, you lose some of that accountability of like, hey, I have to show up now from 9 to 5 or 8 to 7 or whatever, that may be, right? In car sales, it was for me, it was 6 days a week. And some of that too was why I stopped doing that. So, I don't want to say that like accountability means that you have to grind for 60 hours a week. I think it's being in a position to where you know that you can, if you need to get to that next level. When I left the dealership, the main reason that I had looked at that, and so May 3rd was like a very defining thing for me. It's my birthday. And so last year would have been my 34th birthday. And I was kind of looking ahead at the beginning of the year, as I do every year, and, November, December, starting to build that game plan of like what it is that I'm going to do for the next year. And so starting to write down all these goals and started to look at some of that long-term goal too. And it was, where did I want to be when I was 40? And that wasn't at the same office at that dealership. And so it really kind of hit me as like, well, 5 years is not a lot of time. This is probably something that I need to start on now if this is the life that I want to live when I'm 40. And so some of it is that accountability to yourself and that trust in yourself of like, hey, I am capable of doing these things. So that was the big part of jumping out and starting. As far as like the accountability and stuff on my own time, having this a group like this is really good for a lot of people that are going to do that because you can get an accountability buddy, something like that, and then just making sure that you're holding yourself accountable, right? So like something that I do every day is I've got this nice little cheat sheet. I think that you're kind of working on a journal right now that's very similar, but I go over a daily checklist every day, and then I have a weekly checklist at the end as well. But my daily checklist goes over gratitude. So three things I'm grateful for, three critical tasks, kind of following that Andy Frisella type deal, number of business contacts, and then a tally mark for that so I can start tracking how many people it is I'm actually talking to. Without knowing all of my numbers right now, that was very helpful when I was starting. Like, how many people am I talking to versus how many am I actually converting? And then some basic things that everybody should be doing, right? Check overdue tasks on my CRM, make sure that I'm not missing out on people, and make sure that I'm adding things in there. Checking that calendar to make sure that I don't have any upcoming appointments or anything that I'm missing with people. Just making sure that I'm holding that standard that I want others to hold as well. And then social media posts, did I work out? Self-improvement, what was it? 15 minutes minimum, counting my protein, and then one thing that I accomplish at the end of the day, and then a little spot for notes as well, right? So if I've got other critical tasks, maybe past that I need to work on, if those are very short for the day, I can come down to my notes and be like, well, these are things that I also need to work on this day. Or maybe it's something I don't. We go golf in the afternoon, right? It's that was kind of the point of me quitting my job was not necessarily that hustle culture anymore. I think that you've got to do that to get started, and then obviously you can't just fuck off forever. You're not going to make any income, but there needs to be that level of these are the freedoms that I'm chasing, and to take advantage of that at what level, right? And I think everybody's going to be at a different spot. Some people want to climb that mountain straight up, and some people want to go like this. And I think I'm somewhere in the middle of that, right? So,
No, man, dude, that's all of that. That was a mouthful, man. And
yeah,
I definitely think that that's a big piece of like why you're going to be successful is just being in that mindset. Because like, dude, that there was so much packed in there, and like, I highly encourage you to just re-listen to that last like 3-4 minutes. One of the things that I want to pull out of that too, that dude, it honestly it breaks my heart to see people not understand this, especially like at our age, because I just turned 36 myself. So like I'm right there. Like I've got a countdown, 3,275 days, 23 hours and 15 minutes on the front of my phone. Like that's my exit day, 45.
yeah,
And to your point is, dude, I fucking ripped the band-aid off. I was three of my mentors all within like a 3 month, like three, 30, like the three of my mentors, like within a 3 month period, like all basically said the same thing to me, which was essentially if we had started pouring into people sooner, we would have gotten further faster, right? Like, and because these are all people that are 25, 30 years my senior. And like
yeah,
you hear some of these people that, and mind you, they've all had massive success. And so you see these people that are like in their 50s and in their 60s, and like they've made their multi-millions and even won a billion, and it's like, well, yeah, of course you can just go golfing every day. Like you pour
yeah,
time into your family every day instead of working 70 hours,
yeah,
in being a lot lizard. Like,
yeah.
you're like, of course you can do that. Like, but it's like, motherfucker, they made that's
There
life
was a
by design.
there was a trade-off at some point, right? You get to see, and it's the same thing with social media. It's a highlight reel. And so when you see all these people that are running successful businesses, normally they're not showing you, well, half of them are full of shit, right? Half of them are like, hey, I'm running this, five-figure business, six-figure, seven-figure, normally not five-figure, right? They're not going to tell you that, but that's really what they're running. But they're
Yeah.
claiming it's a seven and eight-figure business. And then all of a sudden, you find out that they're in foreclosure. They've got a rented Lamborghini that these videos were with, right? It's just, there's a lot of bullshit there. But the back end of it is like most people trade a lot of time. And, like I was talking about the critical task, and Andy Frisella, he talks about it all the time how, he worked for 10 years making $30,000 a year trying to sell supplements. Nobody was buying before First Form became a massive brand.
Mhm. No, 100%, man. And that's the part that I think people miss, especially like when you look at these people that have done this and they're giving you the cheat sheet, but it sounds fucking scary. It sounds fucking hard. And so you kick the can down the road, you kick the can down the road until like there's no more road left, bro. And that was like my biggest thing is, and hearing them all say the same thing. And, it for me, it was like a derivative too of, I think it's Zig Ziglar that says, if you help enough people get what they want, they'll help you get what you want.
Yep.
And so like I really started to take a self-reflection on like what do I want out of life and how do I get there? And that's when I decided to go all in. Like if it was not something that was on my path, on the journey to my dream life, like I didn't want any part of it. And so it's cool to hear you say that because dude, so many people missed the boat there where, hey man, like I don't want to be doing this when I'm 40.
Yeah.
So why would I continue this madness and not start building what I want to be doing until 40? Like, why not? And like,
Yeah.
dude, as many men as I talk to, even albeit like high performers, bro, so many are missing that piece of the puzzle, dude. Like they're just stuck doing how's the saying go? Stop. They're stuck doing something that they hate to try and impress the people that don't care about them. Like,
Yeah.
that dude, that's death before dying, in my opinion.
One of the best metaphors that I heard was you can walk a mile, and that's not a big deal. Um, it's faster for you to, but most people like, okay, in a city, because we live in a rural area, so everybody's driving everywhere. But like in a city, it's pretty quick to walk a mile, but it's much faster if you're going to go 2 miles. Everybody always hops in a car. And so that metaphor is so theoretically, you would have made that 1 mile faster than you would have if you walked, right? You're just choosing the car to go farther. And so most people in business don't realize the correlation of like they're staying in that comfort zone even though they could move faster. I guess is kind of how I don't know how the total quote goes, but the whole idea is like if you had just chosen the car initially, you'd be able to go much farther, much faster. And people get kind of stuck. And I can't say I wasn't in that same position. I sold cars for a decade. The last 2 years that I was selling, I was producing over a couple $100,000 a year on a W-2 income. And so you can get in this comfortable spot, and that's kind of a tough thing, right? You got to swallow some ego too to say, hey, I'm going to start from zero again. What if this doesn't work? And I don't know. It's a tough thing. I don't think everybody's willing to commit to that. So
And they're not. And that's just the difference between like being in groups like Uncaged, where you're surrounding yourself with guys that make the hard choice. And it's cool when you like start to realize that you can set your ego aside and then like you realize that everyone else that's sitting at the table has done so as
feel
well.
the
Like
same way. Yeah.
there's no longer this like facade that you feel like you have to uphold.
Yeah.
And and to your point too, like just kind of with everything is something you said in the beginning was like, trading in the 9 to 5. Now you get to choose like when you work or fuck it, car lot, it's like 8 to 8 or eight,
Yeah.
whatever.
All
But
the time.
regard,
And then when you're not there, people are still calling and texting you. Yeah.
right. But then you make this jump into entrepreneurship. And I've been pretty transparent on my journey. Like, dude, I was a 6 a.m.er at one point, and then I was like, and that was like something I never thought would ever happen to me. Like, I would never have been
Yeah.
like that. But then I was like, well, how do I improve from here? Like, I need more time in my day. So then it was like 5 a.m. or then it was like 4 a.m. And then I went back to 6 a.m. But there were parts of my life as an entrepreneur where I got burnout and like I would spend weeks waking up whenever I woke up. And so as an entrepreneur, you have a lot of freedom. With a lot of freedom, you have a lot of freedom to fuck shit up too.
Yeah.
So you have to find it's not for everyone. Because to your point, like, previously you had some accountability and someone else saying, hey, show up here at this
Yeah.
time or you're fired. And when you work for yourself, you don't have that. And there's a lot of stuff like that that you don't have anymore. So, like, what was that like navigating those waters, just kind of figuring out how to be your own boss and not having someone else A, to tell you what to do, B, not even really having a, once you start selling cars after your first week or so, like you got your routine down, like you know what you're doing. Like there's none of that anymore. Like what was that like for you making that jump for full time?
I don't think it was as serious as what a lot of people would think to make that jump and transition. A lot of it was just figuring out the new routine. So, at the dealership, like I still had a lot of freedom. If it wasn't busy, you could leave. Wasn't not all the time, right? Because somebody's got to be there. So, and it is frowned upon. So I won't say that it was like it wasn't like I never had any freedom before, but I was typically working 5 and 6 days a week, and I still do. I still carry that over. But Saturday, instead of being 10 hours, it's now probably five. I'll go out like this last Saturday. I just put up. So following back to some of the marketing stuff and how I got into it, initially it was like drone video production. And so just for the locals, I said, hey, I'm going to do this drone special. You can buy a set of drone. If you're in the city limits, I will come to your house on Saturday only for $50 and take some photos. And so I rounded up 13 people that wanted that. It's a quick $650 on a Saturday. And really, it was just an excuse for me to drive around on the Grom and take some photos, right? So that's kind of the difference now. But setting that routine was, yeah, more or less just figuring out what the new routine was going to be. A lot of that discipline, I think, was already there. I was already doing a lot of those things that I'm still doing. I was always waking up before work and working out. And so some of that timeline has changed and just making sure that you have people in your life that are holding you accountable if you know that you're not going to be accountable. And so there has been moments where it does start to get I start feeling like it's getting easy and then I start losing focus on like what is this purpose for? And that's normally when I start to trail off. And so I found, I guess, just overall, if I can keep that purpose of like, hey, the reason that I jumped into this was to help other business owners grow and succeed and turn that volume up and change their life, it makes it easier to show up every day and it helps me stay determined to do that.
Hmm.
So I think that was probably the biggest takeaway is just making sure that you've got some idea of purpose to keep you moving forward, or else it's going to be much more difficult to do that.
Yeah, man, I think that's a huge, and so like even thinking back on my own journey, so like I exited corporate America, went private sector, and started our first organization full time because I didn't want to watch my daughter grow up through a cell phone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to be present, and so this is like a big piece of like to what you said, like remembering why you do some of this stuff, because very quickly I went from being disconnected working for someone else to being disconnected working for myself,
Yeah.
right? Like having to really understand being present because I mean, we hit the ground running. Our I left exited corporate America with just hopes and dreams of being present and making enough to pay our bills, which was like $3,500. I left corporate America at 150 grand a year. Year one, we did like 341,000, something like that.
Yeah.
And I took home 147. So
Yeah.
like right back to the same amount of money, but you know, it's all on me now, all this. And so like I went right back into just being disconnected and we doubled year over year over year, and every year. And so like I too had to be like, fuck, bro, like you did this for a reason. What was that reason? And I had to like, it's not fucking easy, especially when because that was my first. I mean, yeah, I made, six figures at a young age in corporate America, but like that has nothing on, what we had made, when we jumped private sector. And so you're finally getting this like taste of success and no one really warns you for how addicting that can be and how you have to recenter yourself again, what you said on like remembering like why we made this leap in the first place. And so like then I had to really like pull myself back in. And then that even like leads um further into one of the things that I ask guys all the time in Uncaged, gone through the 30-day challenge, is like, they'll be stuck between a rock and a hard place trying to make a very difficult decision. I'm like, listen, and this goes back to like what you said earlier about like, hey, I don't want to be working here forever. I was like, does this hard decision get you closer to your dream life. Like if you were to look at your whiteboard scenario, is it a step closer? If it is, then it's a fuck yes from me. If you were going
Yeah.
to ask me personally, like, hey, should I do this? Is it on your whiteboard? Is it get you closer? Then it's a fuck yes. No matter how hard it's going to be, because you're going to have two hards. You have to pick that hard. And so for me, like I've even had to um pull myself together even in Uncaged because like a big piece of my dream life is like traveling often and sharing these memories with Heather and Lottie. And so like I'll catch myself like turning some of those opportunities down because I'm like, no, I got to get this done for Uncaged, or no, I got to work on this, or no, I need to be in the studio. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, bro,
You've
we
forgotten why you started in the first place. Yeah. I think some of it too, I write about it in the book, right? So I talk about when you get out of high school, you're fresh, young blood. They tell you, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Because now you're an adult. And you can ask that same question to most 50-year-olds, and they're still going to give you the same answer. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And so instead of looking at it like that, I think for a lot of people, the easiest thing to do is to say, this is not what I want to do when I grow up, or this is not my purpose. And then you start checking things off, right? And so the only thing that you're doing really is taking action, and then figuring out how much closer you can get each time. And I think that's a lot more powerful way to look at that for a lot of people. It's not knowing, because you're never going to know exactly, and things will change, right? You're not the same person you were at 20, 25, 30, 50, whatever that age is for certain people. It's easier to look and say, this isn't aligning with my goals now, or this isn't what I want to be when I grow up. And how am I going to change that so I fit closer to that profile? And then the next thing you do may or may not fit, and you just keep going, keep knocking things off the list.
no, I think that's you know what you just said, like just keep pushing, keep going, keep knocking things off the list. Like I think that's a big piece of like the differentiator between entrepreneurs. Because it's the the cliche saying, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up, right? But
Yeah.
like if you look traditionally and like institutionally on like how we're raised, to your point, like someone's fucking 50, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. Well,
Yeah.
it's like you look like how we were conditioned. It's like, when you were a kid, like you wanted to be an astronaut, or like, even if it was like cops and robbers, like you wanted to be this like fantasy, role. And then you had someone like, no, you can't do that. Like you
Yeah.
need,
At some point, life kicks you in the teeth.
yeah. And
Yeah.
you got these people that are telling you like that's not a real job, or you can't do that, whatever. And then it's like, okay, cool. You start getting into high school, getting ready to graduate, getting ready to pick a career path or college, and like you come up with this like great idea, like you want to be a musician, you want to be an actor or whatever, and then you've got your parents telling you like, no, you've got to go for a
Yeah.
real degree or whatever the case is, and then like you get through that, and then you have to pick a career, or if you choose to go down the entrepreneur path, it's like, oh, when are you going to get a real job, or that little business, how's your little
Yeah.
business doing? Like it's
Yeah.
always this like,
Very demeaning. Yeah.
yes, very self-limiting. And like,
Well, so
yeah,
people normally speak from the limitations that they've put on themselves, right? And so when you're speaking about a teacher too, the reality is they're highly underpaid, and so they've put themselves in a position where maybe money doesn't matter to them, or maybe it does, but they don't think that other people are capable of making it because they have not, right? So
no, 100%. That's, and I try to have, massive amounts of respect for just understanding where people come from and what
yeah,
their upbringing is. But like, if you really look at, bro, I'm honestly like, I'm trying not to get too distracted on this episode, but like, I'm trying to like think through all the people that we come in contact to with Uncaged. I'm like, motherfucker, like we were all underdogs our whole life. Like
yeah,
always told, no, we can't do this. Oh, no, that doesn't gonna work. Or no, people aren't allowed to do like it's these motherfuckers that are just relentless on, because to your point, listen, bro, I'm not the same motherfucker I was when I was 6, like
yeah,
arguably, right? Not
yeah,
the same goals and dreams, but like I kept knocking down fucking walls until I found what I wanted. Like
yeah,
someone would say, "Hey, we can't do it that way." Motherfucker, watch me. Like
yeah,
to your point, like, they're projecting their self-limiting beliefs on me. Like, motherfucker, we ain't the same, dog. Like
yeah,
I've got to prove it to myself. I'm going to prove it to you. And really, I'm going to prove it to my future self. Cause like, I joke about it all the time. it's always like clickbait, you're a marketer, so you'll get, it's always like clickbait because I'll always be like, there's two people that I'm in competition with. And so you'll get like these like alpha males that like
Yeah.
rage click on my shit. They're like, you should not be in competition with anyone, like blah, blah, blah. But it's like, motherfucker, I'm in competition with two motherfuckers. Who I am today, or pardon me, who I was yesterday and who I'm going to be tomorrow. Like, I want to be better than the person today. I want to be better than the person that I was yesterday. But tomorrow, I damn sure better be better than the motherfucker that I am today. And like, it's just that constant 1% better daily that like I'm focused on that, in my opinion, is going to take me from where I am today to where I want to go.
100%. Yeah.
No, man, dude, it's been really cool to like watch you grow and watch you go through this process and watch you learn these things. So, like, what are some of the things that like you would say have been the most detrimental, or maybe that's not the right word, the best pieces that you've kind of locked onto and like adhered to that have given you the growth that you've seen over the last year?
Yeah. I guess I kind of talked about it a little today. I made a Facebook post that talks about identity. And so I've seen a lot of people talking about, I don't know, it kind of goes into the culture nowadays, but it talks about like, I'm an anxious person, so I don't X. I have ADHD, so I Y.
I did see
And
that. Yep.
so kind of talks about like when you put that label on yourself, you're now boxing yourself in. You've created an identity around that, and then you start living your life. You don't argue those things when they come in. You just say, well, I'm anxious, so I don't X. Not, I'm feeling this, I can still do it. And so I think putting a lot of that away and making sure that I'm not sticking to labels that I don't want to negatively affect my life and just kind of challenging some of those. Um, and really just having the confidence in yourself, right? When you can, if you can get that proof of concept going, no matter how small it is, it's just scaling it from that number. And so for me, when I stepped out, I wasn't the MRR, I think was around monthly recurring revenue was around $2,500 a month, right? So it wasn't that barely covers like that's not covering our monthly bills. So you had to have that confidence to like, okay, things are going to scale. But I had proof of concept for, the 4 to 6 months that I had started. Well, we've already built this up. And then plus whatever front end revenue I'm producing, right, for doing a website build that's SEO optimized or whatever it may be. So just making sure that you have the confidence and belief in yourself that you are capable of doing these things, and then also being able to prove that you can before you do something, right? You don't need to just come into it with blind confidence, but like, hey, this is why I can succeed, and then look back at your past wins and be like, okay, these are why I'm able to do this.
100%. And
Yeah.
I did see your post today, and it obviously resonated with me because that's something that I deal with all the time when I see people like relate to,
Yeah.
um, ADHD or whatever. Like, oh, my kid, doesn't pay attention to school. Yeah, motherfucker, because he's telling you he doesn't fucking like math. He would
Yeah.
much rather be doing science or this or that. Like, this is
Yeah.
your child
And I
is.
was I was not a good student either, right? I
Yeah.
fall under that label. I think,
Dude, me
and the
too,
reality
bro.
is ADHD or and ADHD and anxiety, whatever, right? I went through that. I talk about it in the book again, where I like went through this. I was diagnosed with panic disorder, and I was having severe panic attacks for some time. I don't have that anymore. I never identified as an anxious person. It was something I was experiencing, right? And it's always on a spectrum, right? So these are human emotions. These are human things that people feel. It's like, at what level at the spectrum are you at that day?
Yeah.
And so, can you work past it?
No doubt. And you said something about, so you said about like identifying as these things, right? And it was
Mhm.
real interesting because the book that we're reading in Uncaged right now, um, one of the coolest like little excerpts from it are examples. Um, and mind you, when if you're listening to this, when you start going down this personal and professional development route, you'll hear a lot of shit that sounds fucking cuckoo. Like it does. I will be fully transparent and let you know it does. However, you can't argue with some of the statistics and studies and the science behind some of the way these people get results. But anyways, one of it was a series of classes and teachers, and they had very exceptional like students. Like these kids were actually like little geniuses.
Yeah.
They had average students, well, and then they had another group of average students, I guess, as the control. So the first group, the control was the average students that went to the teacher, same grade, same everything, um, and teachers were told nothing. Just a typical class in school, and the teachers were told nothing. That was the control group. Then you had the average kids go to another class, and this teacher was told, hey, these kids that you're about to receive, these are exceptional kids. Then you go to the third class, and these are exceptional kids. And then you go
Mhm.
to the teacher and you tell the teacher, hey, these kids are exceptional. Well, they go through the whole school year, and the average kids in the control, where the teachers were just doing their job, it was right on the curve of just being fucking average.
Yeah.
Then you go to the exceptional kids where the teacher told, so the third group, and then the teachers were told that they were exceptional. And even the exceptional kids outperformed being like the curve for being exceptional. And then you had the middle, which was just average fucking kids.
Yeah.
But the teachers were told that, hey, these are exceptional students because they treated them different, because they curated a different atmosphere, because they had higher expectations and standards. Those average kids became exceptional students.
Yeah.
Fucking insane, bro. Like, what? How are we doing this in our businesses? How are we doing this in our families? How are we doing this in our friend group? Like, what the fuck, bro? Like, how are we not holding like higher standards for everything that we do? And then you can label that. Like, then you can give that the identification that you are.
Yeah. Well, and a label doesn't have to be bad. It's just bad if it's negatively affecting your life, right? And so if you're like, hey, I have ADHD and this is why I hyper focus on one thing and that's my business, maybe that's a different story than I have ADHD, so I can't focus at work for 3 hours at a time,
I
you know?
know 100%, dude. I've said, well, since day one of the personal development, like where I really started, adopting, what personal development looks like. The ADHD is like my superpower.
Yeah,
Like that,
I agree.
there's aspects of my life where ADHD and all that will kick my ass here and there, but like I have to identify that as like some sort of like a trigger warning. Like, okay, cool, like I'm not that good when I mix this thing that I have with this type of like work environment,
Yeah.
but when I do utilize it in other areas, I get tenfold out of this usefulness that I have for this situation. So like that's been
Yeah. Well,
mass.
and it's using that label too of like I can't do this because, right? So I can't go to the grocery store because it makes me anxious. I can't put in this work because I have ADHD. You're still capable of doing that. It may make you feel a certain type of way, but that's not it's a limiting belief, right? You're still 100% capable of doing that, even if it sucks. And maybe it's not going to be your highest performing thing, but it is something you're still capable of. It's not like it's some massive disability. It may feel like it at the time, but you are capable of working around those things.
No,
Yeah.
man, 100%, bro. Bro, like, dude, this has been an incredible conversation. I've had a lot of fun on this, but
Yeah.
I know your time is valuable. I want to be cognizant of that. But like before we leave, because time is your most valuable asset, like what can we do for you to pay you back for the time that you spent here with us today?
Yeah, I really just appreciate you reaching out to me, to be honest with you. I don't need anything in return. If it is something, if you're looking for some of my services, things that I'm really good at, organic SEO. So if you wanted to see how your website's ranking and why it is ranking that way, something that we could have a conversation, you can go to elevatedideas.com. There's a spot where you can fill out your information and we can go over that one-on-one, or I can send you we can do a Zoom link, or I can just send you a YouTube video saying, hey, these are why it works. This is why it doesn't work. This is what I would do. So if you wanted a little bit more information, after I quit my job, right, finished writing a book that I had on the list for several years, Likes to Leads, how to turn social media fans into paying clients without paid advertising. So if you're just getting started and you're not ready for that paid spot yet, that's a great spot to start. And you can find it on Amazon.
Hell yeah, bro. No, man, it's been exciting watching you write that book and watch you launch that book. I started laughing when you were talking too, because I was going to say I can vouch for him because he tore our website completely up, and I had to
Yeah.
I had to
Yeah.
go through and, but no, man, it was incredible. I appreciate the high level information that you're able to bring to the table with the guys in Uncaged, with, organic SEO and stuff like that, and just social, so not necessarily social media, but like digital
Yeah.
advertising and stuff like
Sure.
that.
For
So it's
sure.
been a
Yeah. That
lot.
digital presence. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very important, especially in the age and era that we live in today. But man, Ryan, I want to thank you for spending time with us. Go buy the book, hit him up. I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed. But if you got anything out of this, please reach out to myself or reach out to Ryan. Like, he's easily accessible. He's in Uncaged. He's around. He's always putting out information in the free group and engaging there. But get with him, get on his calendar, buy his book. But also, like, more importantly too, well, not more importantly, but if you got something out of this episode, there was a lot of good information here. Please share it with someone. Please put this in the hands of someone else, because there are people out there that need to hear messages like this. So we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.